So this is how the football field universe works. The idea behind the Big Bang then is if all these galaxies are moving away from each other, then in the past, they had to be closer together, okay? So if I look at, say, the Milky Way and Galaxy A, they're 10 yards apart. Galaxy A is moving away at 1 foot per minute. Well, 10 yards, that's 10 yards. 1 yard is 30 feet. So, Galaxy A is moving away at 1 foot per minute. 30 feet. 30 feet at 1 foot per minute would have been 30 minutes ago. Galaxy A had to be on top of us because 1 minute ago, Galaxy A would have only been 29 feet away. 2 minutes ago, 28 feet. 3 minutes ago, 27 feet. 4 minutes ago, 26 feet, and on. So that 30 minutes ago, Galaxy A was right on top of us. Galaxy B is 60 yards away, 20 yards away. That's 60 feet, but it's moving away at 2 feet per minute. So it's twice as far, but moving twice as fast. So a minute ago, it's 60 feet away now, but a minute ago it's 58 feet. 2 minutes ago, 56 feet, 54 feet, 52 feet, 50 feet. 60 feet away at 2 feet per minute would be 30 minutes ago. Galaxy B was on top of the Milky Way. And 30 minutes ago, these other were. So all the galaxies stuck up had to be based on this expansion. What we see, the galaxies all had to be in one place at one time. 30 minutes ago. That's the expansion time. But then, so obviously 30 minutes ago, something big must have happened because all the galaxies were in one place, and 30 minutes ago, something happened that sent them outward. That's the idea of the Big Bang. We extend that because Einstein's theory of space and time is that when you cram, remember Mercury's orbit and the other stuff, warping of space and time, take all the matter in the universe and cram it into one location, and you're going to have a whole lot of warping of space and time. So time itself is warped into nothingness at the Big Bang, at that event. You put all the matter in the universe into one little spot, your time isn't going to exist. So that emergence event, it's not an emergency, somebody said emergency, emergence event, where everything emerges, that is actually the beginning of time, okay? So you wind things backwards and you see that that is where time must have formed, must have begun, because prior to that, space and time are so warped and screwed up that time as we know it can't exist. All right, laws of physics that we know can't exist. So at that moment, that's what we call the Big Bang. And so time begins at that point, space begins at that point, and the universe starts expanding outward and to head toward what we have today. Okay. Now, someone said, how does this work compared to like what does this tell us about the real universe if this is just a model? And the answer is that everything works the same way in the real universe. Okay, it's just not yards and feet per minute and and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 galaxies. Okay, it's measured in vastly larger distances, vastly greater speeds, and gazillions of galaxies. A couple of people said, how many galaxies are there in the universe? Alive. Okay, try Googling that. That's a good Google question. Okay, how many galaxies are estimated to exist in the universe? But anyhow, the difference is that instead of what we worked out here is that the expansion time is 30 minutes. What you get for the real universe is 14 billion years. Okay, so I hope that helped with the whole football field universe stuff. So let's see, a number of other questions that people asked about. How can one person asked a good question, how can people be so opposed to this or that theory when so much is unknown? And this also ties in with a number of folks. A lot of people ask questions about the billboards on Dixie Highway. Who thought them up? What happened to them? And like, why do people oppose ideas when there's so much uncertainty? I don't know what happened to the billboard on Dixie Highway. It went away at some point. People have to pay to have those billboards. They were kind of popular for a while. It's harder to find pictures of them on the internet now. I saved some to use in the book. Honestly, what I think did away with that was the TV show Big Bang Theory. Because now if you put a Big Bang Theory, billboard up, it says Big Bang Theory, what people are going to think about is the TV show, not the scientific theory. So it brings to mind something else. So if you had one of those billboards that says Big Bang Theory, you've got to be kidding, signed God, people would think, what's God got? Why didn't God like that TV show? So that's why I think that's my own take on why those billboards aren't so popular anymore. On the same thing, a number of people asked, did religious people approve of the theory? Did they oppose the theory? Who approved of it? Who opposed it? The answer is yes, the religious people approved of the theory. Okay, for example, there was the one pope who sort of pointed out and said, see, the universe has a beginning. He identified the Big Bang with sort of the creation of the universe as described in the Bible. God said, let there be light. Boom, and there's light. Okay. Interestingly, George Lemaitre, who was a religious person and was a Catholic priest, he was a Christian. He actually did not like the Pope, who's head of his church, making that connection. And basically, Lemaitre said, you shouldn't do this because the Big Bang Theory, it's an idea, right? It's not a known thing. He understood, as you all understand in this class, that scientific theories come and go. They're proven right, and then or we think we got them right, and then oops, we overlooked this. Or this is wrong. Okay, and so Lemaitre did not want the Pope to be saying, "Hey, look, the Big Bang Theory is lines up with the Bible," because what happens if we turn around and find out that the Big Bang Theory is all screwed up and it's wrong, right? So likewise, there's people who really oppose the Big Bang Theory because they think, well, it's not like the Bible, right? Because it doesn't have the 7-day, the usher age of creation that we learned about. Again, if the theory turns out to be wrong, then you've wasted a lot of energy on nothing, So I do not know. I think one of the reasons, to get back to the person's question who said, why is there so much opposition to this or that theory when so much is unproven? I think that part of that is because people don't understand how science works, right? They don't understand that these scientists come up with ideas and they fight and argue and squabble over them. And it takes a really long time to sort of settle down as to what really works. And they don't understand that this is an idea. It supports a variety of things. Okay, the expanding universe certainly appears to be expanding. Okay, but remember that expansion is only something that's measured through a Doppler shift on a spectrum, a change in light. We don't actually see galaxies moving. We see the effect of their motion on light, but their motion is not fast enough compared to their size for us to actually see it physically. Their distances, someone asked, how do you measure all those distances out to the galaxies? You measure them using Henrietta Leavitt's Cepheid variable stars or some other standard candle. We've learned there's a certain type of exploding star called a type 1a supernova. And that we can use that to measure distances also. But we're not directly measuring these distances out with some tape measure. Okay, these ideas can be wrong. Okay, the Doppler shifts can be wrong. You remember that Edwin Hubble went and said, he did not like the idea of a beginning to the universe, and so he ended up repudiating his own work, saying, no, I don't like this idea. I don't like this idea. I think that what we call those Doppler shifts, they're actually something else. Okay, and the universe isn't really expanding. So if we ever find out that those Doppler shifts that Hubble was right, then this whole theory is out the window. Okay, I hope that answers at least a variety of those questions. Couple other questions that people ask. The ball. It's inflating. Will it ever pop, right? He said, well, if you inflate that ball long enough, it will pop. Will the universe ever be destroyed by its own expansion, was the question. No. Okay. So the ball, for the universe ball is not made, the rubber is indefinitely stretchy as far as we know. So you can blow this thing up, blow it up, and is never going to pop, okay? But the galaxies will keep getting further and further away from each other until eventually in the far future, there'll just be this one galaxy that we're in. You won't be able to see the other galaxies. And then those astronomers in that time won't even know the universe is expanding because they won't know that there's other galaxies out there. Couple questions that people said about what's the idea about time beginning with the Big Bang, okay? I think I've talked about that a little with the football field there. But yes, the idea is that time itself begins at the Big Bang, because prior to that, the warping of space and time due to Einstein's the theory of relativity means that time can't exist. So time as we know it does not exist prior to the Big Bang. Okay, so that gets really weird. So you could go back if the Big Bang is 14 billion years, well, 13.8 billion years ago. That means you can go back 10 billion years in time, maybe 12 billion, 13 billion, 13.5 billion, but you can't go back to 14.5 billion years ago because there is no 14.5 billion years ago. On the other hand, we think that the universe will expand indefinitely into the future. So you could go trillions of years into the future. This is if you had a time machine, right? Which we don't, okay? But you go trillions of years into the future, but you can't go anything further back in time than to the Big Bang because time simply stops existing at that point. This is one of the reasons. So the other side, whoops, my computer is going to shut off on me. So the other side of the idea of opposition to the Big Bang Theory is several people mentioned the billboards and religious opposition, but only a couple of students mentioned the opposition from the Soviet Union. That was the atheistic opposition to the Big Bang Theory because they felt that the Big Bang Theory lined up too much with the idea of a creation of the universe. So just like the Pope, Pope Pius XII or whatever that, I can't remember right up, it's in the book, Pius XII, Pius XI, he said, oh, look, the Big Bang Theory lines up with the creation of the universe according to God. The Soviets said, oh yeah, the Big Bang Theory lines up with the creation of the universe according to God. Oh, and guess what else? It's made up, the inventor of that theory was a Catholic priest, okay? So of course he's going to be with the Bible and everything with that. And so there's an opposition to the Big Bang Theory by people who thought it sounded too religious. So this is the great irony of the Big Bang Theory, is that it's disliked, historically it's been disliked by people both because who felt it was a-religious, opposed to religion, and because there were people who felt like it was too religious, too much like religion. The Soviets were people who did not like the Big Bang Theory because they thought it sounded like they were bringing back the idea of the creation of the universe from nothing, which is what Augustine of Hippo, the bishop that has shown up periodically in this class, from Africa had come up with this with a variety of ideas. This is one of them. The God created the universe from nothing, and there was no time before the universe began. Because God created time at that point. Well, a lot of the Soviets were like, this Big Bang Theory. It's just another effort to put religion back in science again. So the opposition to the Big Bang Theory comes from a variety of quarters. It's very interesting. I'll just pause this and get a new video going.